Hi, this is Mel. I hope all of you are doing awesome. Today we're going to do a story, and this is gonna be a ghost story. So Mary was kind of tired of living the what's so-called normal life. She was tired of paying bills, and her health wasn't going good either, so there was not much source of income because of her falling health. She couldn't work that much, and she was tired of paying all the bills, a mortgage, house payment, and then fixing up the house, then buying food and car payments and insurance, the car and the health. It's like money everywhere. So it seemed to her she was working all day just to pay bills, and there was not much of a life. So one day, while coming home from work, her car broke down, so she didn't have money to fix it anymore. So she was coming by bus and metro, public transportation. While she was coming, she kept watching this birds and animals outside, and then she was thinking, wow, they don't have to pay any bills and they just live like that. They eat whatever they can find, they drink whatever they can find, water, and they don't even have to worry about the cleanliness of the water. They drink water from the dirtiest pond and never get sick. And then she was thinking how people got sick so much over a few years and had to pay so much money, but none of the animals free roaming around breathing free did actually get sick. So she was like tired of paying all these things, so she decided to sell whatever she had and just quit her job, sell everything, gather some money, and decided to just go and live free. So she was looking into it, like where she can get something which is really, really cheap. So she went to look for houses in a rural area in the village where she could grow her food and have natural remedies for her health, and also just live with free water, like running spring water, things like that. So she found a house, but the person who was selling it to her, he said that he will sell it very cheap because it wasn't selling. And in the neighborhood, she found out that there was a rumor of a few ghosts living in there, and these ghosts were musicians. So like there was a lady ghost which has been seen in the area who sings, and there was a dancing ghost who has been seen in the area who dances. And Mary said, you know what, I've been through in life so much that I don't care at this point. So the man said, okay, I wouldn't charge you a penny if you can just pay off the taxes in this house. And the taxes are very low because this is a very rundown old house. It was in very rural areas, so it's like $1,000 something for the whole year, or maybe less than that, $500. He said, whatever it is, I'm going to get you the actual amount, and if you can pay it off, it's yours. But I warn you, it needs tons and tons of work, and it does have some ghost, but they are non-harming, as they don't harm anyone. They're just do their thing, dance and sing and walk around and sit. So if you can put up with those, it's yours. And she said, okay, you know what? Animals are living free outside. If I could just get this. And it did have electricity and water running, but it did have a well outside, pump well where you can pump the water out from the ground, and it did have a running stream, water stream nearby, and was very very fresh, clean water running stream. And said the man said that sometimes deers come and drink from it, and birds and animals are drinking anyway, but didn't have any ferocious animals like bear or anything, but it did have some foxes in the neighborhood and some deers, which he let her know. And the man said he would be able to do some fixing if she can provide him some money in exchange, and he can make the place livable. And she was fine with it. She said, okay, I'll give $500, which was the due taxes on that house, and I'll give $500 to you to do whatever fix up you can do with minimum, as long as there's a room I can sleep and there's some sort of electricity, a little bit, so I could have a portable heater, and that's all. And he said, yeah, that could be arranged, and arrangements were made between them. So there were plenty of space in the front and the back to do her gardening, grow her food, and it was all nicely fenced up too. The fence was very recent. He put up a fence so he can garden and grow his own food, so he didn't have to buy it. But the man who owned the place, he decided to sell it and move with his daughter. So Mary decided to buy it and get away from it. He said, yeah, this is a perfect getaway place if you want to live off grid, and only thing she needed is a little bit of electricity and have a running water. And it did have running water and electricity, but since the man didn't pay the water bill, so it was cut off. And she said, well, as long as I have some source of water, which was there because it was a pump which was actually inside the patio in the house, so she didn't need to get out, open the doors and go out to pump the water. So he made a pump inside, and he had a well inside the house, a small well where she could pull out water with her buckets. So there was a source of water. All she had to do is, he said, all she had to do is store it ahead of time, so when she needed, she has a lot of water in hand. And since there was a lot of wood, so there were plenty of firewood to keep the place warm, plus cook. So basically everything free. She could grow her food, she had her water, she had her firewood so to keep the place warm and cook her food, and she was just happy. And so she moved. And then the man said, well, if he didn't like in his daughter's place, he will come by, and if she allows, he can just live and do all the fixing up for the house if she's willing to pay for the materials and little bit of labor, or just in exchange for food and a place to stay. And she's like, oh, it's fine, it's a huge place. So she paid up the taxes, and she paid him up $1,000 for everything, and he fixed up a room and set up everything so she could live. And she also gave him some extra money to have piles and piles of wood which he chopped and piled it up for her. So as she moved in, and the first night she went to sleep. At the middle of the night, she heard from the house was big, but he just fixed up one room for her nicely so she could live, but everything else was broken up. It was very old, 100-year-old house. So she heard the living room door swing open, and somebody came from upstairs to downstairs, and then she came out to see, and she was shocked to see a woman came down, and she was sitting on a chair and swinging, and she was singing, sitting on a rocking chair and singing, and she was singing beautiful. And singing, and she was singing beautiful melodious Lata Mangeshkar song, like so beautiful song, and she was singing it good. So Mary was stunned, and she was just sitting there and listening to the song, and she sang a little bit, and then she vanished, and then
दर्द से मेरा दामन भर दे या अल्लाह हो दर्द से मेरा दामन भर दे या अल्लाह फिर चाहे दीवाना कर दे दामन भर दे या अल्लाह.
Then Mary tried to be friendly, and she said, "Hello, I am Mary, and I just moved here. I bought this place. I'm sure you lived here for a long time, and the place is yours. And I'm just sharing, so let me know if I'm in your way." And lovely singing, I really love it. And then she saw the lady just vanished in the thin air, and then Mary went to she couldn't sleep, so she saw someone dancing outside. So as she went out, she saw this lady dancing, and for a minute there, Mary was so surprised. It felt like whole backyard was like in the mood of song and dance, and it was like a concert, and the lady was dancing, and the same lady who's singing Lata Mangeshkar song was singing again.
सूरज सी एक चीज तो हम सब देख चुके, सूरज सी एक चीज तो हम सब देख चुके, सचमुच की अब कोई सहर दे या अल्लाह, फिर चाहे दीवाना कर दे या अल्लाह, दर्द से मेरा दामन भर दे या अल्लाह.
Other lady was just dancing, and then she saw a little farther down that they had a kind of like a fenced. After the fence area, there was this cemetery which was next to the house, and they had this headstone, and she saw a boy, looked like man or boy, somebody. In the dark she couldn't see much, was sitting on top of one of the headstone. So she saw all this thing, but it really didn't scare her that much, because all these ghosts seemed like very friendly, and they didn't do any harm or try to scare her or anything. They was just trying to coexist with the people living in the building, and they were minding their own business. They didn't get into anybody's way. In the daytime, Mary saw that these ghosts weren't that much out and about in the daytime. They came during the evening and the nighttime. They sort of prefer the dark. And she didn't have that much money to have lights on everywhere. She had only one light on in her room, and she kept everything else dark. When she needed to go there, she took a candle. And the person who lived there previously, he mentioned to her that as long as you respect them and let them do their thing, they will sing and dance and don't get in their way, you're fine. They don't bother, because he lived that way too. And so she started growing food in the backyard, and she found the magic, like this ghost were somehow helping her. Like she could wish for the whole backyard be dug up and ready for planting, and then she'll get the seed in her hand and close her eyes and wish for the seeds to go in the right places, and they will fly off and go to the right places. So and then she will have the seeds in her hand, and she wished for the seeds to drop wherever she wanted them to drop. And this ghost, especially a boy / young man who was very helpful, who just drop all the seeds wherever it needs to be dropped, and then cover with soil too. And then she would wish for watering, and they will water all her plants. And then soon the everywhere started becoming green as she planted all the seeds, and lots of vegetables. She'll pick the vegetables and she'll cook, and she stayed outside to eat, and she'll serve some food to the ghosts. They didn't eat it, but she served them anyway, because she felt like part of their family. And she was thinking it's so much better that she didn't have to pay all these bills or anything. And she also did her yoga and meditation, and grew her herbs and spices, and kept herself very healthy. And as day went by, and she started singing too, learning to sing, and she was so amazed to see that how she can wish for singing someone, and she can sing it so well.
रख दे या मेरा दिल पत्थर कर दे या अल्लाह, फिर चाहे दीवाना कर दे या अल्लाह, दर्द से मेरा दामन भर दे या अल्लाह.
So she started living there so happily, and she started thinking that living in nature and living free is the best way to do it. And she started practicing song and wishing to be able to sing like the singer she wanted to be. And she was able to do that, and it was just like magical. She felt like the place had magic because of this ghost and was so magical. Especially on a full moon night, it was so amazing. The ghost will be singing, the Mary will sing in their tune too, and she felt much better there than living in the so-called world where everything costs money. People are running around all day long just to pay their bills, and they never stopped to smell the roses or have anything good in life. And she didn't have any TV or anything because she just did not want to deal with any more gadgets and electronics and things which will just make life even miserable. So she didn't watch any TV, but she had an old radio where she had lots of her songs. It wasn't much of a radio. It was like a old style cassette player, which had a radio feature if she wanted to, but she didn't want to listen to garbage news or anything to scare her off. She wanted to just live her happy, peaceful life. So she had used the cassette player feature, and she had many 50 or 100 old Lata Mangeshkar song cassettes. She would listen to them, and many other singers as well, and she would try to sing them. And the ghosts were so happy that Mary brought all the cassettes, and they will just listen, and then they will start singing those songs, and they will be so happy, cheering, dancing. And Mary was so happy that she was able to help them to hear those songs. And it was such an amazing experience she was having. And Joe was the one who used to live there before. And then he came back once to visit. He said he was missing, if he could spend some time. And Mary said, "You're more than welcome. This is such a big house, so many rooms. Fix yourself up a room. I'll pay for the material." And she was growing so much food that she couldn't eat, so Joe took it to the market and sold it, and they got a lot of cash for selling those, and they started fixing up the house. And together they were remodeling and fixing and making it beautiful for them to live. And they had a beautiful flower garden in the front, an amazing vegetable garden in the back, plus they had a herb garden. And Mary had a little bit of outdoor area where she did her yoga and meditation, and she teaching Joe was those things. And Joe also got very much interested in singing, and he was singing Kishore Kumar songs. So it was like a most amazing environment, and he didn't want to go back to his daughter anymore. He said, "I'll just spend rest of my days here." And they had this beautiful garden where there are a lot of birds used to come, and they created few more water pumps where they could pump water from underground, so it was fresh water with all the minerals in it. And they just lived happily ever after with the most friendly ghost. These ghost ladies and the little boy always was very nice, polite, kind, helpful, and never scared them or harm them. They were just living their life because they didn't know where else to go. And Mary and Joe was living their life, but they were so happy that they became super powerful with this ghost and their help. And so they all lived happily ever after, the three ghosts and Mary and Joe, and they remodeled the entire house to be like a palace. And the ghost helped me in that too. They would bring big logs and things, whatever needed, and they'll just magically come to the house where they did all the fixing, and they all lived happily ever after. The end. Thank you.